Have you ever heard a voice in the dead of night when you knew you were alone? Shivers ripple down your spine as the echo of an unknown voice fills your mind, isn't it? Now imagine that voice belongs to something unseen, something that lurks in the shadows, leaving a trail of cold whispers and unseen footprints. A tale of such chilling events unfurls in our story tonight. In the quiet town of Haddonfield, one family experienced this firsthand. Haddonfield, a peaceful town where nothing ever seemed to go wrong. Nestled amidst rolling hills and picturesque landscapes, this small town seemed to be untouched by the hustle and bustle of the outside world. The streets were lined with charming brick houses, each with a well-tended garden, and the townsfolk greeted each other warmly. In this idyllic setting lived the Johnson family. The Johnsons were a quintessential part of Haddonfield, as much a fixture as the town hall or the local bakery. John and Mary Johnson, along with their two children, Emily and Tom, were known and loved by all. They were the kind of family that epitomized the tranquility of this town, always lending a helping hand, always ready with a friendly smile. But Haddonfield, as serene as it was, held a secret that was about to turn this peaceful haven into a place of nightmares. But on one fateful night, the peace and quiet of Haddonfield was shattered. October 31st, 2023, a night that the Johnson family would never forget. It was a typical Halloween night in the quiet town of Evergreen. The evening air was crisp and the scent of fall was poignant, with a hint of the wood-burning fireplaces that dotted the surrounding houses. The Johnsons, a family known for their festive spirit, had spent the day carving pumpkins and decorating their home with faux spiderwebs and life-size skeletons. Everything seemed ordinary, yet there was an undercurrent of unease, a strange feeling that was hard to shake off. The first signs of the night's oddities began subtly. The wind seemed to carry whispers, soft but distinct, a disconcerting blend of laughter and cries. The Johnsons dismissed them as Halloween pranks, attributing them to the neighborhood kids who loved to play tricks on the townsfolk. But as the night wore on, the whispers grew louder, the laughter more menacing, the cries more desperate. Then came the noises. At first it was a soft tapping, almost rhythmic, like someone lightly rapping their knuckles against the windows. The Johnsons searched for the source, peering out into the darkness, but found nothing. The tapping morphed into a scratching sound, grating and persistent, like claws against wood. It echoed through the house, seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. The voices and noises created a symphony of the surreal, sending chills down their spines. The Johnsons huddled together, their festive spirit replaced by a growing dread. They were no strangers to the town's legends and ghost stories, but they had always dismissed them as mere tales spun to add a bit of thrill to the quiet town life. But that night, the reality of their fear was far more potent than any story they had ever heard. The whispers grew more desperate, the laughter more mocking, the scratching more frantic. The Johnsons, once the life of the town, now sat huddled in their home, their faces pale, their hearts pounding with fear. They couldn't shake off the feeling that they weren't alone, that something else was in the house with them. As the night grew darker, so did their fear. The voices weren't just figments of their imagination, they were real. The family, once living a peaceful life, now found themselves in a whirlwind of chilling experiences. The once comforting walls of their home turned into a playground for the unseen, the air heavy with a disquieting sense of dread. The voices, once subtle whispers, became louder and more frequent. They echoed in the hallways, punctuating the silence of the night with their eerie presence. It was as if the house itself had begun to speak, each creak of the floorboards, each gust of wind seeming to carry a message from the other side. There was no escaping it. The voices followed them, from the kitchen where breakfast was suddenly disrupted by a disembodied voice, to the children's bedrooms where lullabies were replaced with chilling whispers. The voices were not merely sounds. They seemed to carry an emotion, a desperate plea or perhaps a warning. But the voices were not the only manifestation of the unseen. Objects began to move on their own, defying the laws of physics. A glass would slide off the table, a book would fall off a shelf, a chair would move across the room. Each event, inexplicable and unnerving, added another layer of terror to their already fraught existence. The children's toys would often be found in places where they hadn't been left. Doors would open and close on their own, the chime of the doorbell ringing at odd hours with no one at the door. The television would switch channels randomly, the flickering screen casting eerie shadows on the walls. The family would often wake up to find their belongings in disarray, as if someone or something had rifled through their things in the dead of night. The once familiar spaces of their home now felt alien and hostile. They lived in a constant state of fear, the haunting experiences taking a toll on their mental and emotional well-being. Sleep became a luxury, peace a distant memory. They were living in a nightmare, their reality intertwined with the supernatural. Things were escalating, and they knew they needed help. The haunting had taken over their lives, and it was clear that they couldn't face it alone. With the help of local authorities and paranormal experts, the Johnsons sought answers. The investigation was as intense as the events that led to it. The house was combed through, inch by inch, room by room, looking for any signs of the unusual. Paranormal experts arrived with their equipment, ready to detect the slightest hints of otherworldly presence. The air was electric, filled with anticipation and a sense of dread. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the wind seemed to whisper of the unknown. As the investigation unfolded, the experts found traces of electromagnetic fields, strong enough to cause hallucinations or a sense of being watched. They also recorded temperature drops, sudden and unexplained, in certain parts of the house. These findings were consistent with the experiences the Johnson family had reported. In the basement, the epicenter of the disturbances, they discovered something deeply unsettling. An old trunk, hidden behind a false wall, filled with trinkets and photographs from a time long past. Among these items was a diary, a chilling record of a previous occupant's experiences, eerily similar to the Johnsons. The family listened, wide-eyed and pale, as the experts shared their findings. The air in the room was thick with tension, the silence only broken by the occasional gasp or whimper. The Johnsons clung to each other, their faces etched with fear, yet there was a glimmer of relief too. After all, they were not alone. Their experiences were validated. Yet this validation came with its own horror. The haunting was real, and it was not just a figment of their imagination. The realization was a chilling pill to swallow, a cold hand gripping their hearts. The house they called home was a hotbed of paranormal activity, a fact they could not ignore. Their home, once a sanctuary, was now a site of fear and uncertainty. The Johnsons were left questioning every shadow, every sound. Their lives were forever changed, their reality forever altered. The investigation had opened their eyes to a world they had never known, a world they could not unsee. The findings were more terrifying than they could ever imagine. The house wasn't just haunted, it was a portal to the other side. As the investigators delved deeper into the chilling past of the Johnsons' home, they uncovered a narrative that was nothing short of bone-chilling. The house, it appeared, had a long history of unexplainable occurrences and a lineage of occupants who'd vanished without a trace. The house was built in the late 1800s by a man named Jeremiah Blackwood, a man known for his fascination with the occult. It was said that Jeremiah had constructed the house as a conduit, a gateway to the spiritual realm. He vanished one day, never to be heard from again. But it seemed he'd left something behind, something that lingered in the house. The investigators discovered that every family that had lived in the house since Jeremiah had experienced strange phenomena. Children's laughter echoing in the middle of the night, whispers in the wind, chilling cold spots, and objects moving on their own accord. It was clear that the house wasn't just haunted, it was teeming with spirits. Among the spirits that inhabited the house, one stood out. A spectral entity, a little girl named Abigail, who'd lived in the house in the early 1900s. Abigail had disappeared under mysterious circumstances, and it seemed she had never left. The investigators believed that Abigail was the spirit who had been interacting with the Johnsons' youngest daughter. It was Abigail's laughter that filled the house at night, her silhouette that appeared in the corner of their eyes, and her voice whispering in the wind. But it wasn't just Abigail. The house was a host to countless other spirits, each with their own tales of sorrow and mystery. It was a gathering place for the lost, the forgotten, and the restless. The Johnsons had their answers, but at what cost? The house they'd called home was a portal to the other side, a place where the living and the dead coexisted. The Johnsons had sought answers, and they found them, but they were left with a haunting reality that would forever change their lives. Haunted by the chilling experiences, the Johnson family left Haddonfield. The nights of terror imprinted an indelible mark on their lives, pushing them to seek solace far from the shadow of their haunted home. They found refuge in a bustling city, leaving behind their past and the eerie quiet of the town. Yet, the old Johnson house stands still in Haddonfield, untouched and uninhabited, a silent sentinel of the past. The house remains, a chilling reminder of the unknown that lies beyond our world. Hey there, y'all! Hope you enjoyed that. If it sparked joy, go ahead and give it a hearty thumbs up. Now ain't the time to be shy. Hit that subscribe button too. And oh, sugar, don't you forget to ring that bell. Keep those notifications flowing. Stay tuned for more. We're just getting started. Thanks for stopping by. See you soon.